So they're gonna buff Ari. Well, it's just in time for another KDA song. Something tells me this isn't a coincidence. What is up, Team ProGuides? Welcome back. So happy to see you guys again. My name is Christoph, and I'm extremely excited to run you guys through all the changes that are planned for next patch, patch 10.18. Patch 10.17 was a smaller one as Riot was on a break, but we're back in business now with some very exciting and big changes. We've got a bunch of well-needed buffs and nerfs in hopes of making the meta even more interesting. Like always, guys, make sure to stay tuned at the very end because we're going to be going through all of these changes. I do want to mention briefly as well that we have introduced our new VOD review system. So if you guys have just lost a game or you won one and you're like, whoa, how did I win? All you have to do is just drag your replay into ProGuides and we'll get a challenger player to review it for you immediately. They'll send you back a video, tell you what you did wrong or what you did right, and how you can win in your next game. Easy as that. And as always, for our question of the day, what minor balance change do you want to see to any item of your choice? I think that Stopwatch is a little bit too strong for its price point, to be honest. I mean, it's kind of like a mini Zanya's there, and especially if you're playing a squishy champion like an ADC, you can pretty much nullify any assassin with just the press of a button. Sounds pretty broken for only 600. So I guess I would like to see it be a little bit more expensive, maybe on the 700 or 800 mark, so that players have to invest a little bit more to buy one. With that being said though, let's get into the video with everyone's favorite section, the skins. Joining the skin shop, we've got quite a few new amazing ones here. We have Psyops Ezreal, Ezreal Prestige Edition, Master Yi, Shen, Sona, Vi, and Ziggs, which will all be available to you guys next patch. These skins have a rebellious, kind of dark aesthetic, kind of the aesthetic that I would like to have if I truly expressed myself in fashion. I love how they look so much. Maybe I will dress up as one in Halloween, I don't know. Highly recommend you save or buy some RP to pick them up. Alright guys, now let's run into the balance changes. While we didn't initially expect any systems changes next patch, Riot has actually recently let us know that there will be a nerf to Guardian. I know a lot of you guys might not be happy about these changes, but it's been noted that Guardian is just simply too powerful, and many different supports have been finding success with it. The biggest concern is how strong it might potentially be in competitive play. So Riot is taking precautionary measures by reducing the shield amount from 90 to 250 plus 25% and 12% bonus HP to 90 to 250 plus 15% AP and 9% bonus health. This nerf is a pretty big one, and I'm sure that a lot less players are willing to run it now. Overall, this hits the support role overall, making it feel a little bit weaker in the grand scheme of things. Alright guys, now let's run through the top lane changes. First up, we have yet another nerf coming to Sett. Riot still isn't happy with Sett. They think he's actually really strong in competitive play, so guess what they're doing? They have to nerf him. To accomplish this, they're going to be shifting his power. Sett's passive bonus attack damage on his second hit is going to be changed from 5 to 90 plus 15% of his total AD to 5 to 90 plus 50% of his bonus AD. That sounds like a big change. But also, his Q's damage is being adjusted from 10 to 50 plus 1 to 5% of his target's maximum HP, with 1% being added for every 100 total AD, to 10 to 50 plus 2 to 3.6% per 100 total AD. God, that is a mouthful. You don't even need to listen to me say that. Just read it down on the bottom left where we're going to put it on screen. Basically, the idea is that if you build more damage on Sett, you'll be rewarded. If you want to keep building him kinda tanky like he's built right now though, he's going to feel weaker than before. Ultimately, this is going to be a nerf to jungle and support Sett, so the boss is going to take a big L next patch. Another top lane nerf is coming to Shen. He's one of the strongest picks in the top lane, and he has been for several patches now. Riot is toning him down a little bit, and his passive shield will be reduced from 70 to 121 to 60 to 111. A weaker shield means that Shen will feel a lot less oppressive during the laning phase. He'll also be a little bit less durable later on as the cooldown on his passive drops significantly as the game progresses. Considering that a bunch of fighters were buffed in previous patches, this should make countering him much more feasible. We talked a lot about this one in our previous videos, but Kayle is lined up to receive a buff. However, I know a lot of you guys are going to see this as a nerf. In a way, it definitely is, but overall, it's undeniable that at least in the late game, Kayle will be stronger than before. Kayle's Q will no longer refund mana upon hitting champions, and the mana cost on her W is going up from 70 to 100 to 90 to 130. Her E's cooldown will be reduced from 8 to 6, and the mana cost on it will be removed altogether. Finally, the missile speed is going up from 2,000 to 5,000. The main goal of this change is to make it so that there's more interaction when Kayle lanes against someone. Instead of just sitting back and farming with abilities, clinging on to dear life, you'll need to be more proactive and try to fight with your opponents. Ultimately, this means that hard matchups just got a lot harder, while even ones or winning ones will probably be more fun than before. A no mana cost on her E is a pretty big deal as long as you aren't spamming her heal. This should be a buff in many situations. Finally, Rumble is also getting some love in the top lane. He's getting a pretty big buff on his Q. Its damage is being increased from 175 to 315 to 180 to 340. With the development of the top lane meta, Rumble has had very little breathing room and hasn't been able to fit in like before. I'm guessing someone wants to see Rumble at Worlds because 25 more damage on a maxed Q is a huge buff, since he'll be able to apply the Danger Zone from his passive for some extra damage. While 5 more damage on his Q at level 1 isn't a huge deal, a buff is still a buff, and Rumble should have an easier time scrapping with all sorts of top laners. Of course, this buff should also help him out as a mid laner and even as a jungler, so Rumble's value as a pick will be a bit higher next patch. Alright guys, that covers our top lane changes, so let's now head into the jungle. As a reminder for you guys, for anybody who is a jungle main, there are so many complexities to winning in the jungle. If you're a jungle main, go on ProGuides and upload your replay to our new VOD system. We have incredible challenger jungler coaches that are waiting to help you, give you the right jungle path, give you the right build, tell you when to gank so that you can start winning more games. Go check it out right now. Alright, so we've only got buffs coming to the jungle next patch, and we're starting off with Jarvan. Jarvan has been a staple pick in the jungle since the beginning of time. It's rather unfortunate that he hasn't been seeing much success on Summoner's Rift, so Riot has decided to give him a helping hand by buffing his Q's damage from 80 to 240 to 90 to 250. A nice little 10 damage buff should make Jarvan a stronger duelist while also increasing his clear time. Next is another representative of Demacia with Xin Zhao. Jin's splash damage on his W is being increased from 30 to 70 to 40 to 80, and the thrust damage from 30 to 170 plus 75% AD to 40 to 180 plus 80% AD. This buff is a huge one. Like, really huge. Like Jarvan, Xin Zhao will now also be able to clear his jungle more quickly than before and also deal more damage. Ultimately, Xin Zhao will now have 20 more damage on his W, plus some more if he goes for an AD build. Both of these junglers should feel stronger next patch, and laners definitely need to be afraid of them. Both of them are excellent, straightforward ganking champions, so honestly, just pick these if you're in lower elo. They have little to no counterplay at the early stages of the game. They're just super strong, easy to play. It wouldn't be much of a surprise if either of these guys start seeing a huge increase in play. I think that both of these champions are great, so if you want to climb, pick them up. Alright guys, that is it for the jungle. Now let's head into the mid lane. First things first is that Galio is getting nerfed. While not super popular, Galio has been pretty OP for a while now because of his massive damage output, and honestly, nobody can kill the guy. He's a pretty safe pick as he's tanky enough to survive assassins, and can also provide tons of value with his crowd control. Galio's Q gust damage is being reduced from 80 to 220 to 70 to 210. Unfortunately, this hurts Galio quite a bit as wave clear is essential for him. The loss of damage will feel noticeable, but Galio needs to clear waves fast to be an effective pick. 10 damage won't be enough to suddenly make him unplayable, but it's enough that players will definitely notice the nerf. Ahri is next, and I know a lot of you guys have been anticipating her buffs for quite some time now. She's going to receive some quality of life buffs, shifting her power around, and hopefully she'll feel more accessible to a variety of players. First up, her base health regen is going down from 6.5 to 5.5 to compensate for the next buffs. Her passive is also going to be changed. The movement speed bonus is being moved to her W, and in its place, essence theft from her Q will now be her passive. In other words, her passive now heals her after she gathers some stacks and hits enemies with spells. The numbers are going to be fine-tuned, but overall the heal will no longer be based on how many enemies are hit. Instead, you'll gain a much bigger flat heal when you hit an enemy champion rather than a general enemy unit. This takes out the situational value of this ability, as you'll be able to get full value out of it at all times. Like we said, her W will now provide 40% bonus movement speed that decays over 1.5 seconds once cast. Also, it'll deal 200% damage to minions below 20% health. The cooldown will be increased from 9 to 5 seconds to 10 to 6 seconds. The mana cost will be increased from 40 to 55, and finally, it'll have its targeting on low health minions improved. Okay, that is it for the mid lane, so let's wrap things up with the bot laners. That's right, I'm sorry guys, but there are not any support changes planned. If anything, the Guardian nerf is a pretty big one to the support role, and we'll probably see some follow-up balance changes on patch 10.19. Nonetheless, even support players probably want to know what's going on with the champions they're going to be laning with. In spite of a nerf rather recently, Ashe is receiving yet another one next patch. She's still too dominant, and now her base AD will be reduced from 61 to 59. Personally, I think this change is specifically for competitive play. While Ashe is still strong, I think she's at an okay power level for the average player. For pro players, however, Ashe has way too much power as a pick. Games are decided by coordinated plays, which can only be made with strong vision and information. Ashe's Hawkshot is basically a map hack that can provide decisive information at all stages of the game. On top of this, her ultimate is an excellent engage tool that players at the highest level can easily take advantage of. Long story short, Ashe is absolutely strong. She has a great engage tool, she gets great vision. In the right hands, she is absolutely nuts. What's surprising about next patch, though, is that Kog'Maw is getting nerfed. Who in their right minds thought that would happen? Even if he's strong, he doesn't see enough play. I haven't seen Kog'Maw in years. Well, maybe patches. But either way, he's never picked. If anything, a nerf might push away players and we might never see him played again. Well, maybe not, because there's dedicated Kog'Maw players out there who's just gonna stick to him, like flies on you-know-what. Hell, I used to be a huge Kog'Maw fan. I used to play that butterfly Kog'Maw skin, which was pretty fun. But ever since I found my girl Jinx and Yorick, I never looked back. Okay, so Kog'Maw's HP per level is being decreased from 90 to 85, and his armor per level from 3.5 to 3.25. While his damage won't go down, he'll feel a little bit squishier next patch in the late game. And to be honest, he's already squishy as hell, so this is not going to look good for him. While this nerf isn't one that you can brush off, it likely won't affect him too much though. Games usually don't make it to the very late stages anyway, and he has so much damage that as long as you have a good person peeling for you, you should be fine. He just won't feel as durable next patch. Okay, and now for buffs. First on the list, and this is a scary one because we all know when she gets buffed, she just gets OP. Yes, coming to misfortune. She's still underperforming a bit, and Riot is giving her one more buff to hopefully bring her back up to her previous self. But not too far up, because she was OP for at least a year. Her attack speed per level is being increased from 2.25 to 3%, and her strut's maximum movement speed is going up from 50 to 90 to 55 to 95. Misfortune is very close to the 50% win rate mark, and a minor buff like this should be just what she needs to hopefully achieve a perfectly balanced state. She's not really known for her auto attack damage output, but a buff is still a buff. More movement speed on Strut is a nice buff, as any marksman can benefit from increased mobility. Next up we have Twitch, who is receiving a major, might I say massive, buff. I think this buff is huge, and it's going to shift up the meta for this year's Worlds. Twitch is one of the strongest late game champions in the game, and these changes will definitely make him more appealing to teams that want to scale up. Twitch's EAP ratio is being increased from 20% to 33.3%. But no, that's not what we wanted to talk about. Maybe some new builds might arise as a result of this. If you are interested in those builds, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We do show you guys some really cool builds every now and then from our OP Korean builds videos. But the big thing we're going to be talking about is actually the buff that's coming to Twitch's ultimate, Currently, the damage falloff per unit hit is 10%, and this reduction can cut his damage down to 40% at minimum. However, next patch, this falloff will be only 5%, and the minimum damage with this ultimate will be 70%. In other words, you'll be rewarded much more heavily than before if you're lining up your shots and hitting multiple targets. This is a situational buff, but in reality, it's going to be a buff in around 90% of your scenarios. Even if you're only hitting 2 enemies with your ultimate, you already got more damage out of it. In cases where there are minions in the way, you won't be penalized nearly as much, and cutting through them will be much easier than before. With less of a damage fall off, you'll be able to clear any minions in the way much quicker, and of course, if you're able to get the dream lineup and hit multiple enemy champions at once, you're going to deal close to full damage on all of them. Woo, that is going to be nuts to see. I'm going to ban him every single game next patch. We'll see if some crazy experiments lead to some successful AP Twitch builds, but I heavily anticipate Twitch gaining popularity next patch overall. Alright guys, that's going to cover the changes we've got coming into next patch. Once again, it's been Christoph with you guys. Thank you so much for joining me today. Make sure to check out ProGuides.com as well as subscribe to our YouTube channel because we've got tons of resources for you guys to improve at League of Legends and any other esports game you're interested in. Alright guys, that's it for me today. Thank you guys for joining me. Good luck in your next few games, and I'll see you on the Rift.